Welcome to the Supply Chain Dialogue, Season 3, Episode 3. I'm Daniel Helmick. I recently talked with the management board of a company and we discussed greenhouse gas emission reduction and what they could do about it. I mentioned the UN global goals in this context. When I saw the looks on the faces of the leadership team, I asked them whether they knew anything about the UN global goals. Half of them shook their heads. Then I asked them whether they knew about the Brundtland Report, called Our Common Future, or Elkington's triple bottom line approach. Most of the people had no clue. And why should they? You are so engaged in ensuring that your organization stays on top and that your job provides value add that, in addition to all the other things you have to take care of in your private life, you leave this stuff to academics or the sustainability officer in your company, right? But how deep is our commitment to work on net zero or other areas like gender equality, clean water, and many other topics we find meaningful if our conviction or drive is based on the one or other article we read or documentations we saw on the telly? Do we understand the lay of the land, and are we sure we focus on the right goals? Stephen Covey, the author of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, tells a story about the understanding of the lay of the land. He said, a group of people was clearing a path through the jungle. The workers were hacking away through the undergrowth and the managers were making schedules and encouraging the machete wielders to do their task well. Eventually the leader climbs on top of the highest tree, looks around and then hollers down, "Guys, wrong jungle." But the managers shout back, "Shut up, we're making progress." This story can mean a lot of different things, but for me, there are 2 aspects to this podcast. First, if you want to be a leader, you need to understand the lay of the land so that you're not working on the wrong jungle. And second, you can work your behind off and it might lead to nothing if you do not periodically figure out whether you're in the right forest. So in our setting, it means that we understand where we and our industry should work on for a sustainable future. And rather than just following trends like lemmings, for all you know, you might already be working in the wrong jungle. So in this episode, we briefly cover the lay of the land of sustainability, where it came from in the recent past, and then we drill deeper into the most comprehensive, globally most company-approved categorization of sustainable living, the UN Global Goals or Sustainability Development Goals, SDGs, which were signed in the UN in 2015, in the same year the Paris Agreement on Climate Change was ratified. More on this later. So we could start even earlier by returning to the standards that sustainability is rooted in, which are ethics, or more precisely, business ethics. But this would be a separate episode in itself. Rest assured, when we talk today about sustainability and we cover the original definition in a bit, we do this on the foundation of Socrates, Plato, and many other philosophers who early on in ancient Greece already thought of how we as human beings have to treat ourselves and our environment. But as I said, no lecture on business ethics today. Let's just look at the definition of sustainability, a typical format of applying sustainability in a corporate context, and what, guess who, Michael Porter, or many of you will know from Porter's 5 Forces, had to say about this from a competitive angle. So let's first look at where the definition comes from. Sustainability refers to meeting present needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. That's a definition that was coined in 1987. It originates from the report Our Common Future, known as the Brundtland Report, published in 1987 by the World Commission on Environment and Development, WCED. The commission, led by former Norwegian Prime Minister Gro Harlem Brundtland, was put in place by the United Nations in 1983 to address growing concerns about the accelerating deterioration of the human environment and natural resources and the consequences of that deterioration for economic and social development. It took them nearly 15 years after the Club of Rome report in 1972 already established the following, and I quote, "The Earth's interlocking resources, the global system of nature in which we live, probably cannot support present rates of economic and population growth much beyond the year 2100, if that long, even with advanced technology." So the UN report highlights the concept of intergenerational equity, which has been integral to discussions on sustainable development, influencing environmental policies, corporate social responsibility initiatives, and international agreements to promote responsible and long-term resource management. Now let's talk about how to implement something like this. And there we have the concept of the triple bottom line, TBL, which we discussed in this podcast in many episodes. It is a model. And as we know, all models are wrong, but some are helpful. TBL emphasizes 3 pillars of sustainability: economic, environmental, and social, focusing on people, planet, and profits. The model was created by John Elkington, who is an author, advisor, and entrepreneur. He is an authority on corporate responsibility and sustainability development and has written and co-authored 20 books, including The Green Consumer Guide, Cannibals with Forks, The Power of Unreasonable People, and many others. Quite interesting books, I can recommend them. When John introduced the triple bottom line in 1994, the concept was developed to expand the focus of corporate accounting beyond the traditional financial bottom line to include social and environmental considerations. TBL is intended to encourage companies to measure and manage their ecological and social performance with the same rigor as their financial performance. Under the TBL framework, businesses evaluate their performance based on the 3 components we mentioned: profit, the economic value created by the organization after deducting the cost of all inputs, including the cost of capital; people, the company's social responsibility includes the welfare of its employees, the community, and the region it affects, ensuring fair and beneficial business practices towards labor and the community. And last but not least, planet, the environmental impacts caused by the company's practices, focusing on sustainability environmental practices to minimize adverse effects on the ecosystem. Later, Elkington expressed concerns about implementing the TBL framework in subsequent years. And in 2018, he called for a recall of the idea in a Harvard Business Review article. He expressed that while the TBL term has gained widespread acceptance, its implementation often fell short of its potential to drive transformational change. He noted that many businesses superficially adopted the TBL framework, using it more as a reporting or public relations tool than as a baseline for genuine sustainability-driven strategy and operational changes. You know what that looks like, don't you? Okay, now let's look at a business case for sustainability, and we use no other than the famous Michael Porter. Porter wrote a seminal article with Mark Kramer in 2011, showing that sustainable practices can lead to cost savings, improved brand reputation, and long-term resilience in environmental and social changes. They called the article "Creating Shared Value." In this work, they argue that businesses can generate economic value by identifying and addressing social problems that intersect with their company. Creating shared value, CSV, goes beyond traditional corporate responsibility by integrating social good into the core business strategies, thereby giving more excellent economic and social value. That's important, the integrating part. Key findings included cost savings. Sustainable practices often reduce energy usage, waste, and raw material cost. Second, improved brand reputation. Because companies embrace sustainability, can enhance their brand reputation, making their products or services more attractive to customers, potential employees, and investors who are increasingly valuing ethical and sustainable practices, as we know. And long-term resilience. Companies ensure long-term viability and resilience by addressing environmental and social issues. And here, sustainable practices help business anticipate and react to changes in the business environment, including shifts in laws, technologies, and consumer preferences. Here you look at NPV, net present value. If you're not sure, just ask your finance team, they will explain. Porter and Kramer emphasize that the competitiveness of a company and the health of communities around are mutually dependent. So this is a bit of a foundation. You could as well quote many other important cornerstones of the definition of sustainability, but the 3 will do the trick for us. So with all of that, let's look at the UN sustainability goals or global goals. They were established in 2015 and they consist of 17 interconnected goals designed to be a blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all by 2030. There is a bit of history on this. And whatever you think about the UN, just step back and think about which organization in the world could be the one that could tackle saving and preserving humanity on this little blue ball we inhabit. There is none. So if you can't have the one you love the one you're with, I'd say. And Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young said that as well a long time ago. On a global level, in many UN General Assembly agendas since 1992, Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, most countries have looked for ways to reduce inequality and drive sustainable development globally. Finally, in 2013, the UN General Assembly set up a 30-member open working group to develop a proposal for the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. 2 years later, the process resulted in the adoption of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development with 17 UN global goals at its core at the UN Sustainable Development Summit in September 2015. Today, I'd like to focus on the UN global goals. Instead of just rattling through them, I'll try to explain what you can do with them in a DIY approach and which companies and organizations can help you when you want to engage. Which then means as well that you can cover it as well in your sustainability reporting. As we say in German, tu Gutes und rede darüber, or do good things and then talk about it. I will cover only a few of the SDGs to give you a feel of how one can interact with them. You will get the picture and this will be enough to Google or ChatGPT it further. And for those who like to get a more immersive experience of what we talk about here, you can also sign up for our upcoming masterclass on sustainability on our website. Links will be in the show notes. Here we cover all SDGs and much more, all as always in a very hands-on approach to get going. Before we now get into the SDG list, let me point out something probably quite obvious. Depending on the industry you work in, the relevance of working with specific global goals will change. I will give you 2 examples of linking the UNSPC codes with the UN global goals. Now, what are UNSPC codes, you might ask? I apologize to the professional supply chain persons listening in, but for the rest, the UNSPC codes are organized upon the signature of a Memorandum of Understanding signed in 1998 by the Interagency Procurement Services Officers, yes, such a thing exists, of the United Nations Development Programme, the UNDP, and Dun & Bradstreet Corporation, of all companies. The development of the first version was overseen by Peter R. Branson, who was responsible for designing and developing the code management procedure as a modification of the Delphi statistical forecasting method. The UNDP appointed GS1 US as a code manager in May 2003, and ECCMA developed the Open Technical Directory in the international standards ISO 22745 and ISO 8000. In short, it just codifies every material and service in commerce in 8 digits. Let me demonstrate that with the example of cats. So, on the highest level, which is called the segment level, you have an 8-digit code which starts with a 1 and then 7 zeros, and that is live plant and animal material and accessories and supplies. Then it goes to a level of family. There you have 101, then with 5 zeros, which is live animals. After that, one layer down, you have class, and then you look at a number that now reads 10, 10, 15, 0, 0, which is livestock. And then you go down to the next level, at the final level, commodity, and then you have 10, 10, 15, 01, which is cats. And the cat lovers will be pleased to know that cats is codified as the first of livestock. So depending on the category you're producing, the relevance of SDGs will be different. Everyone will get that livestock has a different prioritization of main sustainability goals than, for example, Family Code 1320, which is aircrafts. Here you would deal with the UN goals 9, industry, innovation and infrastructure. Goal 13, climate action. Makes sense, right? And goal 8, decent work and economic growth. Top 3 out of the 17 in this case, for example. And while we should all work on the net zero greenhouse gas emission target actions, there are also other very relevant activities that our companies can engage in. Instead of using the highest paid person's opinion in the room, short HIPPO, why not go a bit more scientific about this task and check which UN global goals really should apply? Now, enough said. Let's dig into the different UN global goals. Links to the goals you find in the show notes. The UN has a boatload of exciting tools you can also download, whether it is advice or just material to copy into your company presentations. I will structure the goals by first explaining the goal, then the connection to the supply chain, and finally examples of companies that can help. I will not take them all, more, as I said, either in the masterclass or do it yourself. So the first UN global goal is no poverty. And what does it mean? End poverty in all its forms everywhere. That's the definition. When you look at the connection to our supply chains, it's that companies can contribute by providing fair wages, economic opportunities, and sustainable sourcing practices. Now, how do we do this? By implementing ethical sourcing policies, for example, to support fair trade practices, provide job training and support economic development in local communities, and third, for example, collaborating with suppliers to ensure living wages and decent working conditions. Now, who can support you on this? And I give you just a few examples which help to get into topics like this. So, for example, Fair Trade USA. They are a non-profit organization that certifies and promotes fair trade products. They work with companies to ensure fair wages and better trading conditions for farmers and workers in developing countries. Or take Oxfam. It's a global NGO that fights poverty and injustice worldwide, works with companies to promote ethical sourcing practices, support fair wages, and empower local communities through job training and economic development programs. And last but not least, the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition, which is abbreviated GAIN. It's an international organization that works to improve nutrition and food security for vulnerable populations. They collaborate with companies to promote sustainable and sourcing practices, improve food quality, and support economic opportunities for small-scale producers. That's the kind of approach we will take now for as well the other UN global goals. So definition, then how do you do it inside of the supply chain, and then give you a couple of examples of associations or companies that can help you with it. So the second global goal is zero hunger. The goal is defined as end hunger, achieve food security, improve nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture. Now, if you think about how to connect that to the supply chain, it's enhance food security by supporting sustainable agriculture and reducing food waste, and promoting, again, fair trade practices. They are overlapping, and there will be things that are coming in different goals because they are all interconnected to some extent. Now, how can we do it? Well, first, source locally grown products to support small-scale farmers and reduce food miles. Then donate excess food to food banks or charities to combat food waste and support food security. And again, implement sustainable agricultural practices such as organic farming or agroforestry, for example. Now, examples of associations that can help with that is, for example, an organization that can support, and I'll pick some globally from different parts of the world so that you can as well see that you can find these kind of organizations and companies everywhere, is, for example, Second Harvest Japan. It's a non-profit organization that distributes surplus food in those in need. Business in Asia can collaborate with Second Harvest Japan to donate excess food, reduce food waste, and address food insecurity by supporting the organization's food rescue and distribution programs. Then here in Europe, we have the European Agroforestry Federation, called EURAF. They promote agroforestry practices that integrate trees, crops, and livestock to enhance sustainability and biodiversity in agricultural systems. And a third example is the Asian Farmers Association for Sustainable Rural Development, AFA. It's a regional network of small-scale farmers and rural organizations advocating for sustainable agriculture and livelihood in Asia. By working with AFA, Business in Asia can learn about sustainable farming practices, support organic agricultural initiatives, and engage with small-scale farmers to promote environmental friendly farming methods. And since it's such an important goal, I add a few more. The Soil Association in the UK that promotes organic farming and sustainable agricultural practices. It's once again closely linked with small-scale farmers, local food producers, and community-supported agriculture initiatives to encourage the production and sourcing of locally grown organic produce. Or the 24-Hour Farmer, which is a Taiwanese platform that connects consumers with nearby small-scale farmers in urban agricultural projects. And next, the European Food Bank Federation, FEBA, FEBA, is a network of food banks across Europe dedicated to fighting food waste and hunger. By partnering with FEBA, businesses can donate excess food to local food banks, shelters, and charities, helping to combat food waste, alleviate hunger, and support food security efforts in European communities. Now let's skip ahead a bit, and we go to Global Goal 5, Gender Equality. The definition of the goal is clear: achieve gender equality with its major goal, achieve gender equality and empower all genders. The connection to supply chain is clear. Companies can promote gender diversity, equal opportunities, and gender empowerment throughout the supply chain, for example, by sourcing only to companies that align with the same goal. So if you look at examples, it's implement gender equality policies and diversity programs in recruitment and promotion practices. Then support gender-owned business, for example, woman-owned business and women entrepreneurs in the supply chain, and provide training and mentorship programs to empower gender in the workforce. So when we look at examples who can help with that to get going, it's, for example, We Connect International. It's a global nonprofit organization that connects women-owned businesses with corporate partners and helps women entrepreneurs access markets, scale their business, and create economic opportunities. So you can work with them to set your own practices up. Next one is Vital Voices Global Partnership. It's an international nonprofit organization that offers training, mentorship, and leadership development programs to empower women and advance gender equity worldwide. By partnering with Vital Voices, companies can establish training and mentorship initiatives that support women in the workforce, foster leadership skills, and promote career advancement. And finally, just look around in your supply base, especially when it comes to professional services, for example, suppliers in IT or consulting. Ask them about the gender equality programs that they have and their percentages in terms of gender equality. Your leverage will be immense to change the gender balance, not just in your company, but as well in many others, which are all your suppliers. So the next UN global goal that we cover is 6, a very important goal as well, which is clean water and sanitation, defined as ensuring availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. The connection to the supply chain is companies can reduce water usage, promote water conservation, and ensure sustainable water management practices in operations and supply chain. So examples inside of a company could be implement water recycling and reuse systems to minimize water wastage, invest in water-efficient technologies and practices for production processes, and support community water projects and initiatives to improve clean water and sanitation access. A couple of companies that do this are, for example, Aquatech. They are based in the Netherlands. They provide water purification and wastewater recycling solution for industrial, municipal, and infrastructure projects. They offer advanced water treatment technology, including membrane filtration, reverse osmosis, and zero liquid discharge systems to help business optimize water usage. Then we have Xylem, so XYLEM Incorporated, headquartered in the United States. It's a water technology company that provides water-efficient solutions for various industries, including manufacturing, agriculture, and utilities. They offer a range of water-efficient technologies such as smart water meters, energy-efficient pumps, and monitoring systems. Now, in this context, I would like to point out that we do not have a water problem in this world. We have enough water. The problem is, do we have enough sweet water? And there we are looking, and Xylem is doing that, and a couple of other companies, at much more investment in desalination plants and the technology that comes with it. So here we have companies like IDE Technologies, Dosan Heavy Industries and Construction, Suez, Veolia, Axonia, GE Water, Hyflux. There are many companies that have brilliant solutions that can be utilized to actually get desalination plants and technologies going in your area. Now, further companies that are working on this and can help you to set yourself up is Water for Good, which is a non-profit organization operating in Central African Republic that focus on providing sustainable access to clean water and sanitation services in rural communities. You can partner with them to support community water projects, hygiene education programs, well drilling initiatives, and sanitation infrastructure development. Then we have water.org. It's an international nonprofit organization that partners with communities, businesses, and governments to provide access to clean water and sanitation resources in underserved regions worldwide. The next global goal is affordable and clean energy. From a definition perspective, it's ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. And the connection to the supply chain then is clearly optimizing energy use, transition to renewable energy sources, and promote energy efficiency in operations and logistics. How can you do that in a company? For example, implement energy-efficient technologies in manufacturing facilities, source renewable energy for operations through solar or wind power, and collaborate with suppliers to adopt sustainable energy practices across the supply chain. When we look at companies that can help you with that, we, for example, look at Siemens, German company, global technology company, offers a range of energy-efficient solutions for manufacturing facilities, including smart building management systems, industrial automation technology, and energy monitoring systems. Others which do similar things are, for example, one of my former employers, ABB, or GE in the US. Ørsted, a renewable energy company headquartered in Denmark, specializes in offshore wind energy development and provides renewable energy solutions for businesses seeking to source clean power. Ørsted offers renewable energy procurement options, such as power purchase agreements, PPAs, and virtual power purchase agreements, VPPAs, enabling companies to access solar or wind power for their operations and reduce their carbon footprint. Good stuff. And then CDP, formerly known as the Carbon Disclosure Project, which is a global non-profit organization based in the United Kingdom that works with companies and suppliers to disclose, manage, and reduce their environmental impact, including energy use and emissions. Now it's time to skip ahead a little bit and we go to UN Global Goal 9, which is industry, innovation, and infrastructure. The goal defines build resilient infrastructure, promote sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. Connection to the supply chain is fairly clear. You can invest in sustainable infrastructure, foster innovation, and enhance supply chain resilience and efficiency. And examples for that would be that you implement supply chain technologies for increased transparency and efficiency, invest in sustainability production practices and eco-friendly infrastructure, and support innovation in product design, logistics, and supply chain. If we look at companies that can help with that, we have, surprise, surprise, we have SAP, which is, as we all know, a global leader in enterprise software solution, and they offer supply chain management technologies for increased transparency, efficiency, and visibility across the supply chain. And then we have Schneider Electric from France. It's a multinational corporation specializing in energy management automation solution that helps business invest in sustainable production practices and eco-friendly infrastructure. They work on energy efficiency, renewable energy integration, smart building technologies, and sustainability manufacturing processes to support companies in reducing their environmental footprint. Next, we have the MIT Center for Transportation and Logistics. It's a research and educational institute that focuses on innovation in product design, logistics, and supply chain management, where you can as well learn a lot. Okay, skipping forward again, and there we come to Global Goal 13, which is our focus in most of our podcasts, climate action. The goal is clear: take urgent actions to combat climate change and its impacts. Connection to the supply chain, again, is fairly clear. Promote sustainability to address climate change impacts throughout the supply chain. And how do you do that? We talk about this in so many episodes, but just give you 3 here. Set clearly science-based emission reduction targets and invest in renewable energy. Optimize transportation methods for reduced carbon footprint and engage in carbon offsetting programs or support reforestation projects to mitigate climate impact. Let's briefly talk about COP, which is the Conference of the Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC. We had the Kyoto Protocol, which was the 7th session, and in the COP21, we had the Paris Agreement in 2015, where a legal binding international treaty on climate change has been agreed. It was adopted by 196 parties at the UN Climate Change Conference in Paris. Now let's look at examples of how we can engage again on this one. So we have the Carbon Trust, which is a leading organization that supports business in setting science-based emission reduction targets, measuring carbon footprint, and investing in renewable energy solutions. You can work with them to combat climate change and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. They have a boatload of literature and as well processes available that you can utilize. Then let's look at Green Road Technologies, which is an USA provider of advanced fleet management solutions that help business optimize transportation methods, improve driver behavior, and reduce carbon footprint in logistics operations. And then we have Gold Standard in Switzerland. It is a renowned certification body that ensures projects aimed at reducing greenhouse gas emission meet stringent quality standards and generate verified carbon credits. You have heard probably in the press of many of these associations and companies that do not follow it. So Gold Standard can help you. Now you can utilize all sorts of different emission associations and standards. And yes, there are too many for this one Earth we have with this one atmosphere. But heck, we're humans, so we need to make everything different by country, industry, and so on and so on. So we can argue about it, but at the end, we have the CDP, which is the Carbon Disclosure Project. We talked about this before. Then we have GRI, Global Reporting Initiative. They provide frameworks for sustainable reporting. Then you have SASB, Sustainability Accounting Standards Board. Then you have TCFD, Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures. Then we have CDSB, Climate Disclosure Standard Boards. And we have PRI, Principles of Responsible Investment. And yes, if you're working in sustainability or you're working in supply chain for most of this, you have to be actually aligned with all of these standards depending on where you sell and which are your customers, because they might just have that standard that they asked from their suppliers to utilize as well, which you don't have. Skipping ahead to Global Goal 16. Peace, justice, and strong institutions, which is so needed in so many countries of this world. The goal is defined by promoting peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. Connection to supply chain is clear. You can uphold ethical practices, foster transparency, and support anti-corruption measures to promote peace, justice, and strong institutions within your supply chain. How do you do that? By implementing ethical sourcing standards and anti-corruption policies in procurement and follow through with them. Support human rights and labor rights throughout the supply chain. And engage in community initiatives and partnerships to promote social justice and accountability. Partners that can help with that is, for example, the Ethical Trading Initiative, ETI. It's an alliance of companies, trade unions, and NGOs that promotes ethical sourcing standards, fair labor practices. Then we have Social Accountability International, SAI. It's a non-profit organization that works on promoting human rights, labor rights, and ethical business practices across industries. And we have clearly as well the United Nations Global Compact. It's a voluntary initiative for businesses committed to aligning their operations and strategies with 10 universal principles related to human rights, labor, environment, and anti-corruption. Now, what do you think? Are there enough opportunities to get engaged? Is it as complicated as you might thought? And this is just a short list of companies and organizations that can help to make a difference. There is no need to start amateurish by yourself. Help is out there. They're just waiting to be called upon. Use it. Thousands of companies with responsible leaders do it today. And with that, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Supply Chain Dialogues. If you did, please subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Google, or any other major podcast platform. If you're a subscriber, tell a friend or colleague or any decision maker in your company. And for this episode specifically, you might want to share it with your sustainability officer in your company. If you want to learn more about the UN Global Goals or SDGs, click on the link in the show notes. It will take you directly to the relevant UN pages. If you need further guidance, there is a whole jungle of courses, YouTube videos, etc. out there. Or if you're interested, you can sign up for online or face-to-face training from yours truly, available on our company webpage and soon on YouTube. With that, stay safe, be bold, and see you in 2 weeks. These are the Supply Chain Dialogues, although this time it was a monologue, produced and copyrighted by Helmig Advisory AG in 2024.